I just wanted to kind of touch bases back on everything that was happening in the aftermath of what's been happening with the Canadian wildfires, right? As y'all can still hear, my breathing is still toe up. But as someone who is from Michigan, right? Specifically the Detroit area, right? The way it hit us was pretty off-putting, right? Especially because we didn't have time to prepare. I talked about that in the previous video where I kind of showed you some of the different information I was able to find outside. Some of the videos I wanted to be able to show some of the visual elements because sometimes I feel like it doesn't hit the same when you kind of don't see it yourself, if you don't see what it looks like when people are saying, oh, like it's smoke outside. So I found you videos from different places, not even just Michigan. I found some from different states as well where you can see like that drift of the smoke, right? I was able to share some of the different levels of like impact from various places. I shared the information that I was able to find because I just felt like this conversation wasn't being shared enough. I also feel like there's some lack of like compassion for what the people in Canada are also dealing with when I've been listening to stuff. And as shocked as I have been from my experience of like, wow, this really cut my breath off. This really kind of like impacted me. It changed my breathing and all of that. And a lot of people I know, right? A lot of people potentially have pre-existing maybe respiratory issues or other health issues. They've noticed slight subtle changes, right? And we're talking about multiple states or jurisdictions, if you will, that experience that as a byproduct of what was going on there. What I found very interesting, right? What I'm finding very interesting was the response that President Trump made online. So I pulled that for you guys. I moved the TV closer so I could play it on the screen. Y'all can hear it. I can even kind of show you a little bit of screen. If I don't like how it look, I'll go back and edit some of this live and put it up side by side so y'all can see it. But y'all know I like to give y'all them receipts real time. What? Because we be getting into them receipts. So I want y'all to see that. And then I also want you to see what Canada's response was. And once again, right, like the piece that's getting me is you just don't do your neighbors like that. Like I just think in my mind, when you talk about community, friendships, allyship, or even just general being neighbors, right? If your neighbor's house was on fire, you wouldn't be like, yeah, that's messed up. If I can help you, I help you. But if I help you, I'm gonna need you to give me a couple dollars or something. That's really weird, especially when you realize that their house being on fire or there's being smoke would impact you and your house as well, right? It's just a weird thing to say, right? It's just a really, really weird thing to say. In my mind, you would just help the damages, like you would just try to help provide some type of relief, some type of support and then just go from there, right? And then when I was doing some historical digging, I was like, okay, wait a minute. When we've had issues or things that have happened in the past, Canada did come to respond and like offer support. Just like there have been other like countries that have come to offer support when things have happened. I just find it so interesting, some of the responses that people were giving when you see that somebody's in distress, because we have to acknowledge one piece, right? They didn't get to address it the way they wanted because they didn't have the resources to address it how they wanted. So why would you follow that up and say, yeah, if I can help you, I'm gonna help you, but run me some money? Yuck. First off, yuck. I want to do a quick shout out to people who've chopped and jumped into the live. Hello, I see our Marcellus or Marcel. I see Montrose. If I'm butchering names, just know, child, I be butchering names. But I'm talking about what was going on in Canada, the wildfire, some of the smoke, the impact. I'm more so interested in what Trump said in the response that I saw that a Canadian official made, because I just find it really interesting, right? If your neighbor is going through distress, why would that be your response? And you probably like, wait a minute, I ain't hear the response yet. So let me go ahead and put this on so you can hear what Trump said. And I'm going to play what the other person responded and said. So let me pull this up because I went ahead and threw this TV on over here. Let's see. Can y'all see the screen a little bit? Okay, y'all can see it a little bit. So we're going to do Trump's first. And then if y'all tell me y'all got questions about some other stuff, I got the screen set up where I can show you some of the original clips. But you can always jump onto my page in my live to see some of those other things. But if y'all want it right here, listen, what we do, we get into them receipts. I bring y'all the source information right here. So I pulled this right off of TikTok.
Have a good relationship with Mark Carney, but we got to stop the fires up there. If we can help them, we'll help them. But maybe they should pay us some damages or something, or we should do some tariffs.
U.S. President Trump says Canadian wildfires have, quote, poisoned U.S. air and told reporters last night that something needs to be done. He's threatened to top up the import tariffs he's already levied on Canadian goods in response, and says he plans to speak with Prime Minister Mark Carney about the situation.
Have a good relationship.
So this was directly from the Canadian, it's either called Canadian News or Canada News. And I followed them directly so I could get that information, right? So this is directly from their official TikTok page. That's off-putting, right? That's off-putting response. Your neighbor is in distress. And your first response is, you know what? If I can help you, I'm gonna help you, but I'm gonna need some money. The two things immediately following, I will try to help you preserve life, quality of life, is I want some money. You understand that what is impacting them is impacting you, or let's say your constituents, right? People you are responsible to and responsible for are impacted. I represent one of them, but there are numerous people in various states. Your immediate response is, well, they have to stop that. If they could stop it, I believe in my heart that they would. Right? I don't think someone would just let their constituents just sit there and go through that. Especially when you're having so much damage to vital things that they have, right? That particular area that did a little bit of digging. Matter of fact, let me show it to you. I did a little digging. Where is that? I don't know if you can see that, but this is like an official from the Ontario, Canada, Ontario area. It talks about the critical minerals. Y'all know I'm always looking into them type of receipts, right? A big portion of some of the critical minerals that are in that area that actually caught a fire is gold. They have a lot of other minerals, critical minerals that's in that area, but we talking about gold. I just struggle to believe that somebody has critical minerals in this day and age and just will be totally okay with those minerals having fire topple them, right? And not want to try to stop that. That's an asset, right? There might be other conversations, questions about all that, but at this very specific moment, right? I struggle with thinking that particular area having critical minerals, they would be okay with that just happening without them wanting to stop that. So my thought is that if they could potentially have stopped that, slowed it down, they would have. Something has occurred that's preventing that from happening. So that means they need some type of support. And even if that was your thought, was to say, hey, you want compensation, why would you even start the conversation that you would offer them the support first? I just didn't like the way that was presented, right? I just didn't like the way that was presented. So that just made my brain go, Made my brain go, Let me look at this. Thank you all for the engagement. Munch Oreos. Okay, so hopefully I pronounced that better this time. I just chop it, right? Thanks for being in the chat. Thank you for the subscription. And Okay, so you're in a different area, so you aren't quite seeing it the way, that maybe we are experiencing here. I'm so glad that I can share this information, get this out there so people are aware of what's actually happening because it's very interesting, as I always say, if nothing else. I'm going to show you the response one of the Canadian officials had. And then if we have a little bit more time, I'll go ahead and jump and show you some of the original. Um, Matter of fact, you said you weren't aware of what was happening. I'm about to show you a video so you can see that there's someone that was in some type of, let's say, facility or building, and the fire is encapsulating the building that they're in, and they're doing a response call out. Then once again, I'll show you what the Canadian response was to Trump's response. But wow, you know what I mean? Wow.
Take us here. This has gotten a little scary.
Yeah.
Holy this could potentially overtake us here. This has gotten a little scary.
Yeah.
Holy
Okay. Yeah, this is.
Okay, y'all need to hurry up here. Like, seriously, we're encased in flames now.
You guys gotta go backwards. Go.
Looks serious, right? That looks very serious. It's red like that because there literally is fire outside of them. It was a wildfire and it was taking over. I don't know exactly where they were placed. It looked like they were calling in. Well, they actually, you can tell they were calling in somewhere to get some support. My understanding is they do deal with wildfires quite often in the Canadian area, or at least the specific area that was out there. But irregardless if they deal with it on a regular basis or not, that's still pretty intense, right? That looked horrifying. That looks horrifying. And you can tell that they are emergency responders to some extent because of how calm they were in the midst of that. I think they also probably get experiences maybe like that a little bit more often than not, even though to someone's eyes like mine, it was like, whoa. I would imagine, even if you just listen to what they were saying, it was even much for them. They just are responding in a calm manner so they can get the assistance that they need and the support that they need. This is in Canada. I pulled this from TikTok. It says it's a forest fire burning around a freight train in rural Canada. I don't know what part of rural Canada. I mean, given that Canada's a whole country, but this is the rural area in Canada. I can show you something else about the trains in a moment if you want to see that from one of their officials. Now, I can give you a historical clip that I pulled that was also online. Yes, that appeared to be, that fire was recent. The clip I can show you from another official was from 2025, like late, like last year, when they were saying, hey, there are certain things that are happening and we need support. We're not getting the support. Then I can show you. Matter of fact, let me show you this in a different order. Let me show you what the person said as a response to the feedback they were getting from U.S. officials. And then I'll work us back in reverse. And I'll show y'all all the other clips I was able to find. Because I was very shocked that a lot of this information just wasn't sitting. I feel like it's public, but if you didn't know to look for it, you wouldn't have been able to find it. And given what's going on, it seems like this should have been pushed a little bit more. So it made me want to ask questions. Because to a degree, this is directly affecting me, my families, my friends. I actually do have family in Canada as well. Fortunate not in the specific area that was affected, but still affected because they're like in the Windsor area. I actually have a couple different areas, but specifically, like, I know my family in the Windsor area. And because the way it came out, it did affect them as well, kind of similarly to how it affected like us in the Michigan area. It's super shocking. Let me see. I see some engagement. from what I pulled on TikTok, because this is something I snatched down, I can't go back in it and look for the dates, but I'm pretty certain we could find the dates. As far as the most recent event that happens, I could smell that in my home, outside my house, as most people that I know in Michigan could, like Thursday of last week. Today is Tuesday. That particular video I found that day when I started looking probably Friday, Saturday for some real answers. I didn't like that I wasn't finding anything on the news. It bothered me. So I immediately started looking up things, and I found that. Like I said, I'm gonna show you some of the things in reverse because y'all know me. I like to research and dig a little deeper. So I did find that people were asking for support back in late 2025, and the response that they were getting. I'm gonna show y'all that right after I show you the response to the statements and the letters that have been sent from U.S. officials to Canadian officials. So I'm going to show it to you just so we have all that clearly time stamped here. I did show you all. I'm not making y'all go to the shorts anymore. So we found a way to go about it. You said it looks like a helicopter to you. I'm not certain. I didn't get to get enough of the detail on the interior to tell you if that was a helicopter or a home, but you can tell they were in some type of dwelling of some sort. I wouldn't be surprised either way. Based off the professional demeanor of how they were reporting that incident, I pick up that there's some type of professional, more than likely some type of emergency responder reporting it in is how it sounds. That I don't think that's too obtuse of an idea that could be a helicopter or helicopter house or some type of official of that sort. I don't doubt that at all. But just imagine, even if it's like, hey, I dedicated my life to this, I do this, that's still pretty horrifying. To be encased in fire like that, that's scary. That is scary. Like, to see the amber of the fire like that is scary. But I thank them for recording it, so at least we have that kind of information. Because sometimes when people don't have things recorded, people act like events didn't occur. Another reason why I want to kind of track some of this stuff down. Yeah. So I'm gonna show you. So we just heard. Okay, so better yet, just to make sure for those who are on right now, to hear it in sequence.
Have a good relationship with Mark Carney, but we got to
Trump's
stop the
response.
fires up there. If we can help them, we'll help them. But maybe they should pay us some damages or something, or we should do some tariffs.
U.S. President Trump says Canadian wildfires have, quote, poisoned U.S. air and told reporters last night that something needs to be done. He's threatened to top up the import tariffs he's already levied on Canadian goods in response, and says he plans to speak with Prime Minister Mark Carney about the situation.
Okay, so that was freshly uploaded yesterday on the California. I keep saying California because I see the C. My apologies. The Canadian news source. I pulled this directly from their site. So now I'm going to pull the Canadian response.
I find it a shame the administration in the U.S. and Congress people writing these letters and blaming us and so on and so forth. They have a very short memory. We had the water bombers, everyone ready, going over to California. It was last year. We sent down hydro linemen down to the Carolinas and Georgia to help out. That's what neighbors do, right? You don't get on and start threatening and criticizing because guess what? One day it's going to be your turn, and we're going to be down there without hesitation to support our neighbors, which we should be. But all the rhetoric going on there, and it's not from all Americans. I'll tell you, Americans love Canadians, and we Canadians love Americans. But to make the comments they did through the administration, unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable.
Also from the Canadian news source. As you can see, I'll leave all the handles on there for your viewing pleasure. That's pretty intense, right? Because they just gave us the receipts right there. Because I said, hey, I'm pretty certain I'm pretty certain that we have received support from them in different ways. And I'm pretty certain that other nations have offered us support when we were in distress as well. But specifically Connect, like Canada, right? They have helped us. And as recent as last year, right? And your response was that I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed because it was so unnecessary. I see some engagement in the chat. Let me see. I don't definitively know what the cause of the wildfires are because I know that they also have them pretty frequently. What I have been reading and hearing, I would say that heat would be a piece of the puzzle. I would definitely say that's a piece of the puzzle. Now, I can move through some of these other pieces, and there are some other sources who feel more comfortable making definitive statements. I can't personally make that. It's not my particular area. And it's still one of those things people are still like investigating. But also keep in mind there are multiple wildfires that are occurring at the same time, which is also very interesting to me. In different places, they all kind of occurring at the same exact time. So could he be a piece of the puzzle? I definitely think it's a piece of the puzzle. I definitely think it's a piece of the puzzle. I can't say exactly what causes what though. Okay. So I want you to also see the video on currently like how it looks since this wildfire has been taken over. She says wildfires, you know. Right? That level of devastation. Yeah. No, I get what you starting to say. That I get where you're going. Yeah, I'm waiting for answers. I'm ready to see like the investigation into like all these different pieces, right? Because literally, the chief says that the wildfire completely destroyed First Nation. That's exactly how that was quoted. Now I'm gonna show you another clip. As I told you, I'll be getting into these receipts. Okay, I'll be finding things. And I'm gonna just show you something that was reported out late last year, just so that we can have some understanding. It doesn't appear that people were not trying to get help and support in managing certain kind of things or things that they saw to be foreseeable issues. So I want us to look at that.
We're trapped.
This was May 30th, 2025.
We take the calls from our people, from the mothers, from the grandmothers, from the men, from the women, the elderly that are trapped, sitting there waiting to be rescued. And the lines of communication are broken. What answers do we give our people? We're here. We're trying. We will get you out. Now, Canada, don't wait until we start losing lives. Like Grand Chief spoke, do better. We matter. Our people matter. The call went out days ago while we had an airstrip. We asked, we pleaded, it fell on deaf ears to come and get our people out. And then the weather changed. You know, the fire came towards our airport. It took it out of commission. Prior to that, our trucks, our main rail, like our main mode of transportation into our community was already compromised. There was no way we could have bought supplies in. You know, and then it went back to our airline, the wind shifted, it took that out. So now we're asking, we appreciate all the efforts that are coming in right now with the helicopters, but like Grand Chiefs have spoken, we need more.
That was on CBC News. And that was reported back in May of 2025. We hear in that video that there has been issues and damage that occurred to the train. Child, I don't know what happened there. But we are back. So we just heard in that video, right? We saw and we heard that there are issues. There was damage to the trains. Talk about transportation portion, right? There's damage to the train. If the airports are damaged. And also, all right, very courageous soul who did lose their life. So what happened? That how he just make me hot. Like, that's so problematic because literally they even said, even in the face of being spoken to, in a way that wasn't very empathetic, they still said, there will be a time where you're in need and we will come and still help you, but I don't like what you said. Right? Because that's how you treat your family and your friends. Your neighbors, they're your neighbors. You look out for your neighbors. You stay at their six. You're supposed to have their back. You do that for your family. Do that for your friends. That's just how it goes, right? I was so disappointed by that response. There are quite a few tasteless things that happen, but like right now, we know people are losing their lives. You're losing your homes, your livelihood. Like you saw the visuals I was able to pull, right? That's a high level of devastation. To be that cold about it and be like, yeah, send out some tariffs, excuse me. And I don't even want to hear that word come out this administration right now. I'm so tired of hearing that word. And a bad thing, tariffs inherently is not a bad thing, but it's like the way it's been used in this last year. And then associating it with what's going on, I just thought that was so cold-blooded. It was just, it's so not nice. If I got choked out just walking outside trying to walk my dog for his potty break, if I got choked out in a whole nother country, granted, when you're a bordering nation, I mean, sometimes, we're closer than not, but I walked outside and got choked out, unbeknown, which is the part that had me a little, on tip. What are they experiencing over there? And then to find out that wildfires are pretty normative for them. Now, granted, that didn't really smell like burnt wood when I was outside. Some moments did, but other times it's like, what is that extra thing I'm smelling? What are they experiencing on a regular basis? And if we have the resource to help, why are we not? Because we're not going to pretend like when you look at like the different budgets and stuff that they have, that there aren't funds that are sent to provide relief, right, for other places. So it's just, my question is like, why was that the response? I was disappointed in it. And I just wanted to show some of the receipts too, because I do feel like this is something I'm going to continue to track a little bit. Because y'all know I always have that legal everywhere framework that I'm looking at, like harm absorption, right? But I'm also asking the question about accountability, the authorities, right? Who's going to be monitoring this to make sure that we can get a successful outcome? Who's going to be monitoring it? Like, how do we make sure, how do we make sure that they're okay? And in the aftermath, that people who are affected by what happened can be okay, right? How do we go about that piece? That's what I'm curious in. Because typically you do have budgets and pieces of things that have been allocated for the conversation of relief. Predictable and the things that have not been predicted. You put a buffer in for those kinds of things. And since money been spent all kinds of ways, I'm just trying to figure out how come we are not figuring out a way to make that work. Got a whole lot I could say about how some of these funds have been spent recently. But we won't do that. I just wanted to dedicate I really wanted to dedicate more so this live just to us looking into that, because this is some of the information I could find online. So, I always wanted to share it with you guys. A lot of times I'm telling you, hey, go into my shorts and look for the videos there. And I don't know that that always is the best pathway for you guys, because some of you guys are just your first time ever seeing me, ever meeting me. And you may not be as invested quite yet to go look into the live. So I figure if I could find like a tablet or some way to show y'all. I looked online. I said, I'm not buying one of them big old roller things. I got an extra TV I stopped using. I'm going to just show y'all on here, and I moved it over here. It's a little big for the spot, but hopefully it gave you enough of a visual and distinct enough sound where it can pick up where it comes across, where you can hear everything just as clearly as you hear me. The impact is real. Harm absorption in this particular case is real. The impact to, the Canadians, like what they're experiencing, the impact to all the different states as it's been drifting, that's real. So my heart really goes out to everybody who's impacted at whatever layer and level of impact that they have been sitting at, because irregardless if you're like, oh, well, my cut hurt more than your cut, you still got cut, right? You can't tell somebody else how to process what they feel and what they're experiencing. All you can do is say, well, I just hope that you're able to be okay. So that's pretty much where I'm at today. I hope that everyone's able to be okay, because the level of devastation that I have seen through these videos, through social media, through people's lives, it's very strong impact. Like I said in a previous live, my breathing is very different right now. It's harder for me to hold these conversations, right? At this point, I guess more of a monologue. As you guys respond to me in the chat, I get to respond back. But so it's certainly dialogue. I know I like a little conversation, but it's impactful, right? So I shared my piece, what I've been experiencing, right? Other people through their social media platforms have been able to share what they've been experiencing. And I wanted to make sure that I pulled some of those official responses. We were able to see a response from as recent as May 30th, when it was first posted in 2025, where people were saying, we feel like we're being just left here and these things are occurring. We got to see someone being encapsulated and it's like fire all around them. We got to see the aftermath of the wildfires that are currently going on. That's impact. We get to see videos and visuals of what's been happening to people locally. When I say locally, I'll just say like within the United States, as it's been drifting here. On top of the fact that we have wildfires, things that are also happening here as well. I believe someone in the chat earlier mentioned about heat, right? And also it seems in the comment, Munch Oreos was saying sometimes happens because of heat, fuel, and oxygen, right? Very interesting. Let me see if I can pull some of the, let me see if I can pull the other one. I didn't upload it. Maybe I did. Let me see. Nope, I said I upload a few at a time. So yeah. So I did not upload the second one that I was going to show you guys, but yeah. So that was my discussion for today, right? My heart goes out to everyone who has been impacted by what has been happening. It's disappointing to see some of the responses. I'm hoping that maybe they can clean some of that up as far as rhetoric goes. so that we can have, I don't even know, because I'm always interested in posture and how people say things. That's just not a good way to handle a neighbor. Never a good way. It's never good to put a bad taste in somebody's mouth, especially somebody that's that close physically. Luckily, Canadians are just so nice in general. Like I said, I have several Canadian relatives and friends from different travel and places I've gone, and us being a bordering state to that area. It's a place I've visited in vacations quite often. Just nice people up there. It's unfortunate that they're going through all of that. I wish I had the other clip available, but I also, like I said, my heart goes out to people who are in the U.S. who are also experiencing things, because a lot of us were not informed it's going to happen. So there's also a level of trauma, I feel like, that occurs when you don't know that something's going to happen to you and you have to manage what's happening when it might be affecting, your quality of life. So I think that would be true for both places. My understanding is it might be drifting to some other spots as well. But like I said, there's multiple states that were involved, and at this point has drifted further out. So there's certainly other places that have been impacted. But just know that, you all are in my prayers. I wish the best for you all. I'll be staying tuned, looking up more receipts, looking for more ways to put this on. And if you guys like the way that I put this set up so you can actually see the receipts here, go ahead and put something in the chat to let me know that y'all like that setup. Because if that's the case, I'll incorporate more. It was a little bit of a hassle to get it in here. But if you guys like that, I will make adjustments so that we can make that a little bit more regular. If you're like, hey, I don't need that portion, you can just give us the quick little T, right? Give us the receipt and then in shorts, and we'll go look at it there. I'll do that. I'm pretty amendable to what you guys want. I told y'all I have multiple different ways that I come on to the YouTube channel. So I have some pieces where I do like more of a lecture kind of setup, and I bring y'all everything. And I got the presentation. I'm breaking it all down, whatever history and whatnot that I can find. But then I have these where like mobilized. I'm just talking to y'all. Y'all my people. So of course we just chit-chatting today. That is what I found. That is what I've been sharing today. Hopefully you enjoyed this live. Hopefully you found this information to be helpful. I found it odd that this information isn't as accessible as it should be, right? I literally had to go to the Canadian news sources to get some of that information, as you can see, right? So I don't feel like it's being reported the way that we would want that kind of information to be reported, right? Because we're getting impacts here, but I don't feel like the news is being spread in a way where people would get the real, right? The real is they've been trying to manage it. They just didn't have the resources. So, when you understand that, some of the other rhetoric doesn't seem appropriate, right? So, with that being said, if you have not been to my channel before, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate you being here. This is the Legally Everywhere channel. If you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate the subscription. But if you're not ready yet, that's okay. Just go ahead and check out my page. Peruse through, you'll find that I have lots of content on the Legally Everywhere channel. I have a Legally Everywhere framework that a lot of times I use as a way of following the news. We do what is called a stress test. Every time I get news, I try to make sure we understand the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. And if we don't have that, we keep digging. If we have it, then we talk about it, right? We move from that, then we move to the different areas. We talk about mediation elements. We talk about legal authority, the documents, like what are the founding documents, foundational documents. We talk about the economic elements, right? We talk about historical pieces, all these different pieces of the conversation, right? And there's more pieces to Legally Everywhere framework. But, even like the power absorption, how does that impact the constituents, the individuals. How does it impact us? How do we absorb the impact, the harm? So we do a lot of that on the channel. I do archetypes as well. Sometimes I feel like it's a lot easier to understand conversations if we put it into everyday terms, not make it seem so, ooh, you know. So that's what the archetypes are. It just helps us anchor. I have channel archetypes, but as you work through it, you'll probably start to develop some archetypes in your mind for how you want to learn and understand the information. And I implore you to do that. So if you're like, hey, this is my first time here, I don't know, I want to subscribe, just go look, just peruse through the channel. Look and see if you like what I'm putting down. If you like it, you know, like, share, comment. If you're really vibing with it, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe so you'll know when I'm back on and we can chit chat again. Like I said, I always have fun talking to y'all because y'all my people. I love sharing with y'all. I just feel like sharing is caring. Each one teach one. We all should be sharing because honestly, at the end of the day, we all do have certain responsibilities and obligations. And when it's our time to do what we need to do, whether it's voting, whether it's to be a good neighbor, whether it is to engage in our civic duties, in whatever way you consider that to be, let us all be informed to the best of our capabilities so that we can make the best decision when we have an opportunity to make it. Because there will always be a moment where we can make a decision that can impact others and help others. And if we're informed to the best of our abilities, we can make the right one or the best one that time permits us to make, right? But if we don't know, and we don't know that we don't know, how do we know to make a good decision? Hindsight's always going to be 2020. I get that. But if you can at least be informed, you can feel better about the decisions that you made, and you can cope and grieve with outcomes a lot better when you at least done your due diligence to be well informed. So that's another, you know, element to why I created the channel. I just love to share what I learned. Info dumping, if you will, right, with my people. When y'all ready for it, y'all can find me right here on Legally Everywhere, because we'll be legally everywhere looking into everything. If you liked what you saw, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, y'all.